All right, Nadine Artemis, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Hi, I'm happy to
So,
be here.
we've got a lot to talk about. There's a couple of cool stories that I'm really interested to hear from you. But first, I want to introduce you properly by asking you to tell me a story about a moment in your life that has defined who you are and how you show up in the world today.
That's a fun question. And when you asked me that, I was thinking about the time that we had everything dissolve in a fire. And it was obviously, it's a moment in life where you see where there's a situation that's bigger than you on all levels. It's like this giant thing, and you can't do anything. You can't put it in, can't will it out. So you're really confronted with a lot at that moment, and for the many moments after that, as everything that you've built up, and from sentimental things to your sweet beloved animals, just dissolves. Is such a strange thing. Like literally, as we sifted and sorted through the ashes of our lives, it was just like some things didn't even exist, and some things you could find and remembered what it once was. But we lost, every, all our personal day-to-day items, like our whole home, as well as our whole business, all the materials in our business, because it was in a workshop attached to the house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's just like, I mean, the things that go through your mind, well, as it's burning, because it's like hours long process, you're just like hoping and praying that, oh, maybe it won't get to that side of the house. Maybe it won't go to the lower level, but it just all went up
So
to
that
the,
was my next question, and you were
yeah.
there just standing outside watching it all happen.
Well, in a way, like, so with our business being attached to the home at that stage, we live on 200 acres. So we're so lucky about that. So that's also really our true home is the land.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped. But the whole main building was so busy that we had made little cabins to like live in. And we just put on another addition to house a whole other part of our business, just like the bottles and stuff like that. As we knew, we had one more winter left until we were like starting to construct the new headquarters that would take us into the next few decades. We had broken ground, we had the architectural drawings designed, and a strange thing, it happened on a Saturday night in August. And on the Friday, I was saying to my partner, to my husband, Ron, I was just like, we've been saving and saving for this new building, and it's so strange. I feel like we're not going to be spending the money on that. And I'm like, that's so strange because it's all starting. And we know that. I said, maybe that's just a new level of nerves because we're going into a new chapter. And, we didn't end up spending the money on the building because like we had to use it to just, buy essential oils and all the raw materials for our business because literally we had nothing left. So we were in the cabins when we saw the flames, like a loud noise came, and the cabin's not too far from us. And it was all lit up inside. And we look back and there's just like flames, like 20, 30 feet high. So it was at that point where it's just like, oh my God. And it was actually it wasn't safe. So we had to kind of move away. So we went to the further away cabin as we waited for the fire people to come. But it's country living and, it's a volunteer fire department, and 22 minutes seemed like forever. And they came up and they're like, oh, we're going to run out of water. And then my husband was like, it's okay. We have a lake. It's out front. And we had this electric ATV that helping them get the hoses down and that kind of thing. But,
Wow.
and then the fire chief helped us move the car out of the garage, but the front still got burned. Anyway, it really just all went up. And then the next morning, I mean, that night is such a, we got our son. It's just insane, it's just so heightened everything. And that's a long night. That's a hard night. And then as you hear like, no, nothing is left. You're just really waiting for the dawn to come and for the sun to rise. And the good thing about that is that, we always watch the sunrise on our property. And so it's just good to have that that consistency from the universe, because the day to day was really messed up in that moment. So you kind of just step back, take in the generalness of life. And we're just really so thankful that, none of us, our whole family was safe. And that was the main thing. But it's really this feeling, especially too, of being an entrepreneur. And I'm like, over 20 years into what I'm doing, this is a huge, we've built this, like literally each by drop, we had built everything that we built. And, so much beautiful inventory, not just in flames, but I mean, just very beautiful stuff, like liters of sandalwood and frankincense and neroli, like, I mean, just exquisite things, just all, just totally transformed into a different alchemy. And then that feeling of like, because more of an entrepreneur feeling that like, oh my God, do I have to roll up my sleeves again for another 20 years? Like, is it all gone? There's like all kinds of thoughts like that. But I share this, I guess, in the sense of like how I show up in my life. As I remember the fire chief saying, this time next year, you'll be on a new deck and be laughing at everything. And I'm like, I'm sure we will be. It really does suck right now though. But really to get through that, and that's why I share that, is because people will be like, how are you doing this? How are you okay? Like whether it was a few days later or a few months later. And I feel like I've just always been a very positive person, had a very positive spirit. And it's just always the intermission of my mind to find the better thought, to find the better feeling, and to keep moving towards that. And that if it's hard in the moment, or if it's, it doesn't feel like things are good in the moment, then it's just not the end of the story. You're just not at the end of it yet.
I feel that a lot. That's a really powerful story, and there's a lot of details that I definitely want to dig into. I've felt in moments, probably overly dramatic moments where I've at least felt like my business was metaphorically on fire, and finding that better thought can be challenging, even when it's somewhat of a minor problem, or when you look back on it. But this is definitely something that's a huge milestone in your life. And you mentioned the sunrise and the better thought. But what was the better thought? Was there something you kept telling yourself at the time? I know we mentioned, like, do I have to start over in my business? How did you change and work with this story as it was unfolding?
Well, first it's just like, okay, oh my God, we're alive. We're okay. And we're not away from our home today, because then we would have started a whole forest fire. Like, you know what I mean? Like if it went unattended, I mean, it's just acres of forest on it was a very dry summer, but a very wet night, which was really nice. It was a very dewy night. So it's just first starting with like, you got to just step back, go wide, get the wide angle lens. And like the three of us were alive, and we had savings. We did have savings in the bank. And we had clients that loved us, like love what we make, and would be like, don't ever stop. You know what I mean? So if there was that, they were like, everybody was still ordering. So even when we couldn't, we just sent out a newsletter and was like, and it's crazy because we have over 300 raw materials that come from every nook and cranny across the globe. And often, if it's August, we've already bought all of our, Rose Auto for the year or whatever, because there's some you just have to buy it and, make sure that you're guessing what numbers you need for the year, because it's gone after it's been distilled. So we have there's a lot of complexities to what we do, because we love really keeping it real and diverse. And, we're not just like making a widget, just, and we have over 300 raw materials and probably over 200 things that we make. And, there's so many layers and nuances to what we do. But that being said, we just said, we're going to try to be shipping orders out in a month. That's our goal. And so people just ordered as they would and patiently waited. And it was like business as usual. So that was really amazing to just go, okay, well, the flow and the expectations and the desire for this to exist, even though we don't have a drop of oil, just kept us all going.
So what is it that you do, and what is it that you make? I've gotten a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
of hints about this, but I don't think we quite know what this business is and how it works.
Yeah, I forgot about that part. Well, we have a company called Living Libations, and I've been formulating with botanicals for over 20 years. I started when I was 18, and we make really real to the feel some of the most purest skincare, beauty care, oral care on the planet. And I'm also an author of 2 books. One is Holistic Dental Care, and the other is Renegade Beauty. And yeah, it's Living Libations.
Very
So
cool.
yeah.
And so this business, one of the things I was wondering is were there major changes to what you did or how you did it based on this? I think
On the fire.
yeah, based on the fire. And you kind of hinted at something that I want to dig into. You said,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it was just, you said something about the day to day was kind of something, and I'm not sure if that was just like the day to day of that specific day, of
Oh,
like
yeah.
managing that, or if there was something maybe that with your business that you weren't satisfied with, that actually going through the fire you were
No,
able
it
to
was like
change
our
course.
day to day was like ungrounded in anything. We had no kitchen, we had no clothing. I had no underwear, I had no passport. We had no items that you would generally function with. Forget even a business to function with. We just had no items.
Much
And
less it sounds like you're in a pretty remote location, so it's not exactly as
you
easy
were
to.
remote. I mean, there is a town, that we could, yeah, and we got supplies and people came with things. But then it's also just having, that quality that you're used to. And our home prior, I was like, everything in our home has been put in there with a lot of intention to like, this, we just love making a beautiful home. And we had many beautiful heirlooms, as my mother had just died 6 months prior, and just a few weeks before, a lot of her stuff had arrived, just beautiful things that she wanted to pass down. So that all went up. I had my grandmother and my great grandfather were really a beautiful artists. All their paintings went up. It just was like on and on and on. We actually we didn't change anything that we did with the business except being in a new space, because we found a space within 24 hours. Our sorry, just checking my battery. Yeah, okay, it's good. We had these beautiful friends that had made this huge home with like this huge main room, and they were like, come on over. And we're like, no, I mean, if you want us to move in, I mean, like, we got, we're talking oils and production and alchemy. And they're like, absolutely, we're going to move out. And so we had a space right away. And so it was interesting because we had planned this other space. We had designed, we've been working on the new headquarters for about 2 or 3 years, right? We've got to zone the land and do the drawings, start building the road. So we'd done all the road and all that, which is still some major steps, even though it still was just a hole in the ground where we were digging for the foundation. So the great thing is that we immediately were in a larger space. And with that, of course, systems get refined and different things because you're just in a new space with new things. And we literally didn't have anything previously. So, because we didn't have any prior equipment or anything. So it's just starting fresh in that way. But the whole thing I've really wanted to maintain from that first, formula I made until present day is allowing something to grow and flower, but without that original intention being, diluted or dumbed down or getting too efficient. There's efficiency is good, but we can get too efficient on things. I think of like a beautiful organic restaurant that then sort of goes into maybe a 3-restaurant chain, and then all of a sudden they don't have real maple syrup on the tables anymore, and they're like buying the canned organic tomato juice instead of, you know what I mean? So it's just sort of those cutting corners. And I feel like I saw that a lot with quality and things in my youth, my younger years, and I was like, that is just not going to be happening.
So one of the things I'm hearing, and this is interesting and different because we don't often get kind of physical products. A lot of the
Mm,
people we interview on this show are coaches or create digital products or kind of work in the online space. And this, though, there's no doubt a ton of digital marketing required for this. But you've mentioned and spoken a lot, like you've got a big taste for quality and a very kind of aesthetic, but also it almost feels like a tactile, a touch and a feel to it. And I would love to know a little bit about how that came together with your business. How did you come to create something like this? And what do you think it is about you that drives the uniqueness in what you're doing?
those are good questions. I feel like one thing that has sort of guided me to present day is always focusing on my strengths. I think, I mean, that's a thing that we all know now, like focus on your strengths. But even as a young, like a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, all the way through, I was always just really interested in doing what really inspired me. For the rest, I was completely bored, you know? And so even in school, like if I loved your class and what you taught, I would be thrilled to be there. And then if it wasn't, it was boring, you know, so I was always constantly moving towards what I loved. And I think I'm also very sensitive. So whether it's trying a food or an environment or something, if if I feel it doesn't like feel good, you know, whether that's a fluorescent light bulb, you know, like walking in a mall with, you know, I feel like I'm sensing things all the time, and then I'm moving towards what I do want in a big way. So once I discover essential oils, and I'm smelling them and I'm getting into that, but then I'm reading textbooks from like the 18th century that are talking about ingredients I've never heard of, and then I need to find them because I need to smell, like get a whiff of why they would put that together in antiquity. So then I started to bring in different botanicals from around the world, and then I would smell something totally exquisite, or I'd smell something that I already had a bottle of, but it was like worlds apart in quality, kind of like a wine would be. You can have I mean, think of like red wine and the vast experiences. So that's the same thing with the plants and the oils and the raw material. And, you know, it's just so much more resonant there's so much more resonance when something's that pure and it's speaking to the senses. So I was only interested in pursuing that. And because there wasn't this quality in Canada, I was like importing. As I was going through university, I just started importing raw materials and making things because it just didn't exist. And once you taste and experience and work with what the best, whatever that is, whether it's, you know, a food or raw material or whatever, um, you just don't want to go back, you know. And it's just, and there's so much compromise in life. I just really want to hold that line of integrity because we're putting it on our bodies and it's a beautiful experience, you know. It's
Well,
just
what I really
beauty
like
on
about
top of
this and
beauty.
and what
Just can't
I'm
go wrong with
what
that.
I'm hearing and is really cool and unique is is I've met people with sensitivities like this, and this can be interpreted or seen in a lot of different ways, similar to a house burning down. You can see it as a curse or a burden, or as an annoyance. And but you took it and you found a way to transform it into something that makes you unique and stand out, and crafted something that was excellent from it. And I think that it really points to something that everybody can really learn from and take away. Like a lot of the things that we feel could be our burdens or our curses in life can also be these incredible gifts if you look at them in the right way.
And you know, sometimes you need that little bit of hindsight, but it always works out.
So this brings me to my next question, where though I'm personally not a very heavy consumer of these kind of products, I am aware that working in beauty products and essential oils is an extremely competitive industry. And there's lots of different people, both on small, small levels like, just kind of these at-home businesses to these massive, brands and organizations that enroll entire armies of people to work with them and sell for them. How do you stand out and make yourself known in this competitive and pretty cutthroat marketplace?
It's a great question. And being an entrepreneur, I've often been asked about competition. I feel like, even from when I was 22 and I had opened that store, I just feel like there is no competition because the level of purity that we create with is just, I don't see it. Maybe there's something natural, but then they've used something like grapeseed oil, which just sort of makes it this rancid product that's really not that beautiful. Or there are essential oil companies out there, but they may not be true, authentic distillation. So I always just really focus on, my inner world and where my formulas come from and listen to that in creating them. And then we just really focus on living libations and creating the best product. Now, that doesn't mean that other people don't perceive, that there are your companies like this or that, but I really don't pay any heed to it. I'm just like, we're just really focused on what we create.
And how do you get the message out about what you're doing? How do you reach your audience? How do you spread
Yeah,
your
that's a great
message?
question. Obviously it changes all the time and it's, changes really fast. But if I think, early when I was first starting out, it was just like normal media. That's what existed in the 90s, right? It was like, I did a lot of TV shows and got national coverage and and lots of interviews and would speak at conferences. And then, jump ahead about a decade. And then we have the early social media and YouTube and everything formed. So yeah, we do all of those channels and but really it's also word of mouth. I mean, I still have clients that I've had since I was 22 because the products really are that good. And it's so great because with social media too, I mean, there's such a natural ambassadorship and so much like passion that people just spontaneously, sing praises and market for you like every day. It's like there's just people writing blogs and posts and videos about their love of living libations. And then also I love doing podcasts because a lot of what we do, I'm often doing podcasts for educational purposes on like oral care or, women's health or skincare and different things like that. So, you don't get a lot of that kind of expertise with skincare as well. So I feel like people, they read the books and they really seem to just dive into the whole ethos, the whole world that we've created.
That makes a lot of sense. And what is you're out in kind of a rural place. What does your
Yeah.
team look like right now?
Yeah.
And how do you manage a team? Are they all kind of nearby and and living in this town, or do you have a distributed team?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, in my early years, I mean, I had a store, so that was interesting because but it was really like, I felt like it was like me creating a really good product and the client. So it was sort of this triangle. And then, time went on and then I partnered up with Ron and we got to this whole new flowering of the business. But that was really just Ron and I and a really good products and awesome clients. But then of course, and I'm like, there's going to be people someday. We got to just keep it as focused as we can until then. And then the people started coming because we needed help. And that was a really interesting situation because as people came to work with us, they really enjoyed it. And then I felt there was like a whole new purpose for the company to flower and grow, was to care for the people that were wanting to work with the business. And so then I felt like it kind of became this square or like a rectangle where it was about the clients and the products and Ron and I and our team, because it was like we were getting people that like surely if we were to continue, they would work with us for the rest of their lives. And so to really honor that kind of commitment was a really fascinating journey in our company. And then just always trying to do really innovative things and have a really good team, and, not run it like 1950 style management, but, get some innovative things happening. So at first, being in this smaller area, we didn't know where the people would come from, because we were just so busy working. It's not like we were meeting people, but of course, you find one person and they have friends and that kind of thing. And now we have this awesome team. Most of our team is here locally, but we also have a store in California, so we have a team there. And then we have a couple of lovely random people around the globe that work remotely and do remote work, which is also, I think, an amazing thing, because I love having a diverse team. And I just think it's so great this day and age that there are so many ways to work and connect as a team.
How do you take the kind of the culture and the personality of yourself that you used as the foundation for this brand, and make sure that it reaches, it can be understood and felt and communicated around the world now, and in your multiple stores and locations, so that you don't become like one of those restaurants that you were talking about, which becomes a
Yes.
franchise?
Exactly. Yeah. How do we do it? How do we keep instilling? Well, I think
Or
it's
and what is the culture? What are some of the qualities that you instill?
well, yeah, and we try and even do this within our company culture. So we like to instill things like beauty, innovation, integrity, and clear communication. And I think that's one thing about what we do, is that we've really gone deep. We have like full little universes that you can go into. And there's such a strong foundation to the brand. And I really have been doing this for so long. Like, I was just right out of university. So this was in the 90s. And I feel like, I was there doing essential oils and independent beauty before it was a thing, before the multi-level marketing came along and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like I've been there. I've been there with quality since that first moment. And there's just a depth to that I feel like it really created a natural momentum, that, and the philosophy is so deep that it, obviously we do have ways that we bring it through things and where we train people and stuff, but it has such a good momentum that it carries us.
Mhm. You mentioned before we got on the call in kind of the notes that you are a disruptor in your field. What does that look like, and how do you disrupt this field?
Well, I think in many ways, I mean, my book is called Renegade Beauty, and it's really about like tuning into the elements and kind of creating this cosmoetics where you're really finding that beauty and getting replenished by nature through the cosmos, rather than this stuff that is like, beauty isn't just something that we apply to ourselves. And so, I mean, that, and it's, I know, I recommend people not read like beauty magazines and that kind of stuff. So I feel like on that level, it's disrupting regular beauty realms, and the ingredients we use, disrupts the realms, because we're not working with things that, you could easily use as fillers, or kind of cheaper chemicals that create a response in the moment, but kind of have long-term effects that aren't positive on the skin. So I think through ingredients, through messaging, through our education, we're undoing what's the normal beauty paradigm. I mean, I have a whole chapter on engaging with the sun and really going through the science and the poetics and the noetics, as well as like deep science on how we need to expose our skin to sunshine, for anti-aging purposes. So there's a lot where we're disrupting the norm in that area.
That's really cool. And right now, what do you think is one of the most effective ways to get your education out? Is it primarily your books reaching people, or your social media and YouTube? What's the main marketing and education channel you're leveraging right now?
I feel like in the realm of education, I feel like the books are this great foundation, but what I think really brings it alive, and I'm so happy to do it because, again, we do live remotely, is podcasts. They're so fun. I love having these, intimate conversations, and there's such a it's so fun talking to, other people's beautiful tribe of people that they've gathered, and then we can explore things, or, riffing off another great brain of a podcast interviewer, and just, it's fun. And I feel like it's definitely a really neat era where we are, maybe radio died a while ago, but we've discovered a whole new way to connect and kind of have long form conversations, which is really nice.
Yeah, and so you've been spreading your message on a lot of different podcasts, and I know that's maybe one of your team members. What do you, when you're reaching out to podcasts? What's your way to create this connection? What's your way to get known, or even research and finding the ones that you want to be on that will really resonate with you?
That's a great question. And I get a lot of invites just anyway. And then I was actually getting so many invites that we did bring in Angela to work with the schedule more. And then because she's doing that, then she knows people and she'll reach out to people. So I'm not too sure of the total methodology. Or if I hear of a podcast that I like, I'll be like, hey, let's talk to them. But it's really a thing that seems to grow again through word of mouth as well.
Absolutely. You also mentioned speaking. Are you going on to stages and speaking at events? And are you using a similar? Are you using team members to get yourself onto stages, or are you building these connections and getting these invitations organically?
I did. I would get a lot of invitations organically, and it's something I actually. I can only do a few, or one or two a year. So we have to really pick and choose, because I do run a whole little world here and have a family. So it's just a real, we have to time it when we're leaving the house. So they have to be really special conferences.
That makes a lot of sense. And so are you still kind of the main, sounds like you're the main formulator and creator, and you are kind of the manufacturing of your business right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's our thing that might be a bit different about our business too, is like we do every single thing. And actually, since we have this team and we're out here, we've even gotten more innovative. Like we make our own incense holders, because we're just like, why buy them? We can just make them, because we have a carpenter on the team, So there's like more that we do, and we want to keep shipping in-house instead of using fulfillment houses, because there's a lot of, then you're looking at another company's ethics and they might not quite be the same. So we do keep a lot here. And it's also, we've seen the value of having a fun, good company to work with in a small town, because that was a neat thing about moving out of the city too, is I don't think we would have felt our impact on the community in such the same way. But when you kind of can get out here and see the forest through the trees a bit more, it's just like, wow, this is important. And, if you think about even in looking at the politics out in the world, we obviously have a lot of things to sort out, but you can really see how you can use a business as a model for community and growth, and, people feeling satisfied all around, and you can create your own micro economics. And that's kind of fun to just even see that evolve and have the company serve a whole other realm that I just, hadn't always fully envisioned, that we would have a team like this size and doing all these great things, which is just a whole great cherry on top of it.
It's really powerful. And I do love how you have kept so many things in-house in a world where kind of delegation and handing off every part of your business to productized services is kind of highly recommended and highly leveraged these days, where people are just trying to access as many of these things as possible to just focus on this core thing. And I think you do know your core essence, but it's this taste for quality, and you've made sure that it comes into every different level of the business, whether it's choosing the ingredients that you work with, to, it sounds like, even creating the products themselves and sending them to people. So you've got a hand in almost every part of the business. How do you keep yourself from getting overwhelmed, or how do you kind of manage boundaries in that area? Because it seems like it would be difficult to always try to keep that.
Well, there's yeah, a lot to grow, and it's definitely different running a business of 5 people as it is to 50 people, because things keep growing. But at the same time, and we have such a great team and so much great infrastructure that we've built up that I don't get overwhelmed. I mean, I went through the fire. It's just like
Yeah.
it's all easy after that.
Well, and that brings us back to this, and I think this is a good place to kind of, I feel like it's been full circle, kind of seeing everything that's gone into place, and now knowing all of this about your business and seeing it all literally go up in flames, but seeing you move on and move through that, and the community and customers and team that you have around you that supported you through this. It's very impressive, and I think very rare in this world today. Do you, going back to that moment in the fire, or kind of your moments moving forward from that, I would love to have any kinds of maybe a closing thought or a closing lesson based on that we can leave the audience with, and then of course let us know where we can learn more about you and connect with you.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what I was saying, I think before, where if you're in it, it's just not over, right? If you're not feeling that you're out of it, you're not. And it's, that seems really simple, but just that, like, it truly, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but this too shall pass. These are true things. And I think when you're in the moment of that harsh reality, what seems like a harsh reality, or that contrast, I mean, you just have to notice it, and then you have to turn your head to the sunlight, turn your head to the solutions, and just focus on that. Just focus on that new horizon, on that new sunrise coming up the next day.
Perfect. And again, tell us where we can learn more about you,
Oh, yeah.
connect with you, and check out your products.
Yeah. So our site is livinglibations.com. My book, Renegade Beauty or Holistic Dental Care, is available there, or like on Amazon, wherever books are sold. And then, we do all the regular social media. Instagram's my more favorite one. You can see our beautiful land there. We've got Facebook and that as well. Facebook, YouTube.
Nadine, thank you so much for joining us today on the Story Engine podcast. It's been really fun getting a glimpse. You've got a really unique business and a lot of unique insights to share with the world. And it's no wonder you've continued to be successful despite adversity. So thanks again.
Thank you.